Welcome back, guys. Harry here, known as Tradesharpe. And have you ever taken a trade, closed it at like 12 pips in profit just for it to run 100 pips and you're like, oh, if only I just held that trade? Well, that is why we can leave runners. And there's a specific way to leave runners. Not every trade deserves to have a runner left. Most trades don't need a runner, and there's only specific scenarios when we should leave runners, and that's the ones that can pay us. Otherwise, you're just basically gambling, and you have to do some simple math to understand if your runner is really worth leaving. If you close a position at 10 pips with a one lot, you make $100. But if you close half there, price has to run an additional 20 pips for you to make that same $100. So you're doubling how far price has to move. So when you're leaving runners, you want to basically treat it almost as a separate position with that risk and expect that and do simple calculations. And we're going to get all into that into this video. And I'm going to talk about when I leave runners and why do I leave runners and when is the perfect time to leave runners, so that all of you can be catching those big moves and catching it with something that is written down, rule-based, and something that you can replicate over time. So if that sounds like an interesting video, definitely advise you to watch to the end. And yeah, with that being said, let's get straight into it and go talk about how to leave runners like I do. So let's get on to that. Before we start, guys, if you haven't done already, can you please leave a like on this video? If we can get up to 500 likes, really would appreciate it. Any comments below, I really do read them. And if you haven't already, followed the Instagram, constantly posting updates there, trade updates and all of that stuff. I have got questions about the exclusive group. People are asking me when I'm gonna open it. I do open it normally at the beginning of every single month, so I will announce probably in the Discord group, so you can join there to have announced when it does open. If you don't know anything about that, you can check it out. I made a video that explains on the website. Just click the exclusive link that explains exactly what the group includes. It's an all-inclusive, and I think it's a solution, and be part of a community where your skills can really be proven and you can excel. So that's the goal of it. So out of that, all out of the way, let's get into the charts, as I said, and get on to basically how to leave runners. So see you there. Alright, so when it comes to leaving runners, there is two types of runners that people leave. There's a planned runner, which is the runner you should be leaving, and a gambling runner. A gambling runner is just something you hope to get lucky, that price will run and start to move through the zone, and you can hopefully make more than you anticipated to make. Now, the problem with this is you're actually losing a lot of gains, and this is my number one point, is that you're better off probably not even holding a runner. The reason why is that if you're closing full at target over time, let's say you were to close half your position, you're essentially losing half of your income if most of those runners are not running or they're coming back to break even. Because what's most likely you're going to do when you leave a runner, you're going to put stops to break even and hopefully let it run. And if that comes back and taps you break even, you're losing 50% of your potential income. You do some math, add that over time, even 4 pips, even if you're missing out on a potential 4 pips, 5 pips, even a 5 pip move, you add that over time, over 10 trades only, that's 50 pips. That's 50 pips worth of income. And if you times that times a 10 lot here, you're looking at around $5,000 worth of income, right? $5,000 worth of income over a whole year is definitely substantial and something you shouldn't be missing out on. So if you don't plan to hold a runner, don't hold a runner. You're wasting money, you are losing on potential income, and you will notice that your positions are just small. You're like, what? That's all I got for this much? Yes, and it is because you're trying to hold a runner and most of them will come back to break even. And that brings me on to my next point, is that when you hold a runner, most of those runners are going to come back and tap your break even. There's a really high % chance that it's going to come back and tap your break even, which is a reason why you have to have a planned runner. You have to treat a runner as a separate position. So we're going to get into the charts and talk exactly about how do you hold a planned runner and when to hold a runner. Because for me, when I plan to hold a runner, I will only close 20% of my position potentially and leave the rest to run. The whatever lot size that I want to leave as a runner, I plan that as I'm taking a separate position. Like, let's say I wanted to take a 10 lot and I wanted to leave 5 lots to run. That 5 lot is a separate trade. I'm treating that as a separate trade. I'm treating that as a 5 lot trade to my target. And how am I going to find those targets? All comes back down to market positioning. Because when you're leaving a runner, you're essentially trading the higher time frame. Because if we're scalping, looking to take 15, 20 pips move, whatever it might be, 12 pip, whatever type of move, there's a high chance that a 12 pip move will come back to break even at some point, right? Because it's only moved 12 pips, unless you're lucky that it's just really rocketed, you closed and it kept pushing, but that's not always the case. Most of the time it's going to make structure come back to entry, and then you're wondering, okay, let's see if it rejects entry or not. If it doesn't, then obviously your runner is going to be wrong. And secondly, that is why we like to scalp and close at relevant targets, because we can be in and out of the market as quick as possible. Take your piece, do that over time, do that consistently, and that's of course how you build an income. And that is, for me, a strategy I like to use in terms of my own trading, being in and out. I don't want to hold trades for a long amount of time. So if we go ahead and look at, okay, how do we plan runners? Runners all start from the higher time frame. If you don't know how to do your top-down analysis, if you don't know how to analyze on the higher time frame, you are not going to be able to hold runners. It's as simple as that. Why? Because you won't be able to distinguish when is the right time to hold a runner. So let's go take this example here of a move we had on Friday. And if we go ahead and look at how do we know if it's a good option to hold runners here? So the number one thing about holding runners is that, where are we in the market? If you're looking for sells, right? If you're looking for sells, and this is where you need to have the strategy down, I'd recommend you watch my videos of how I exactly take trades in terms of all of the 4 steps. I have a 4-step strategy video that talks about exactly my 4 steps I do to take trades. If you don't know the way I take trades, this might be a little bit confusing, but this could help in your trading. Because when you want to leave runners, it has to be planned. And what I mean by planned is you need to have higher time frame targets. You need to have space on the daily. So the first thing you check on the daily is, do I have a clean range to trade on the daily? And the answer is yes. Your next zones is going to be somewhere around here, right? If we're looking for sells on this scenario here. So that checks the box number 1. Is that fine? If I'm going to be able to sell price today, if you have higher time frame analysis, that price has broken structure here, we have retested the range into here, and as long as we don't break this high and we create resistance on lower time frame, this is simply what we know as a setup number 3 on the daily time frame. Or this is simply just a pullback to potentially continue down. And the reason we know that is we're like, okay, fine, 4 hour has done what? Created resistance, right? 4 hours created resistance. If 4 hours created resistance, we have all the way down to fill this candle and to continue down bearish. So if we're finding positions up here, this is a good spot to leave runners. Why is this a good spot to leave runners? Because you have range to trade. On the higher time frame, it makes sense. This is a setup number 2 on the higher time frame. You have space, you have range to leave a runner. Taking sells down here makes no sense to leave a runner, because it's 50-50 if price is going to reject this support or close below. And only when it closes below, then you can go and anticipate where's your next targets, somewhere around here, right? Then that's the only chance you can say, okay, I can leave a runner to potentially tap into these zones. But until this candle closes below, it's 50-50. When the candle's open, you don't know how it's going to close. It can either reject the support or break through it. Yes, with momentum, we expect supports to be broken on a downtrend. We expect highs to be respected and lows to be broken on a downtrend. Yes, so you can anticipate that, but trying to leave a run in that area, you're asking for a slap, because pullbacks can be heavy in that area. So it doesn't really make sense. But if you're leaving runners from up here, it makes sense to get to here, and then you're already in a very profitable position. You can take more off the table here, or you can say, I expect lows to be broken and I'm going to tap the higher time frame targets into this support zone down here before even thinking of closing. Or you could continue holding this into next week because you're in from up here. There's no reason to close at the moment. Price could come back, retest this, continue down for next week, and you can continue holding this runner, and it ends up becoming a swing position, because essentially when you hold a runner, you're holding a swing position, and that's my point. And that swing position has to be treated exactly like that. So if we go look at an example, and this is the most powerful way to trade, and this is why I love doing this, and you get these shots maybe once a month. Don't expect these to have these every single day. Most of the day you want to be doing a consistent job, taking your profit and moving on to the next day. But when you do have the opportunity for this to set up, this is where it can land you huge opportunity in terms of being able to take a trade on the smaller time frame and hold it on a higher time frame where you're not having to hold swing stop losses, right? So it's really, really useful. So let's go ahead and look at an example here of the sells on Friday. So we've done the higher time frame analysis. We know the daily is bearish, daily broke structure. We have a 4-hour pulling back, created resistance. If we do start to break down and show signs for us to take a trade on the lower time frame, we can potentially hold this all the way down to the bottom of the range here. So if we go and look at a breakout move that happened during London, right here, this was a breakout move. Normally, in terms of long term, be careful with breakouts in London. Normally you want pullbacks to continue. That is normally a lot safer instead of breakouts during London on gold here. but that's a different topic. We can talk about that in a different video. But if we go ahead and look at this support here, we've obviously had this clear support. If we were to break through this support, we have the potential to fill back into this zone here. And this would be your trade. Simply, this would be your trade. You would have, basically you would put your stops above the highs here, or even run it a little bit safer above these highs back inside the range, 24 pip stop, and looking to get down, and you get only a 14 pip target, and that's it, right? That's your scalp. That's your scalp. That's your breakout. Boom, break out the range, and then that's your little scalp down into the zone, and you're done. Right, and that's the consistency move. But if you know on the higher time frame that this is a zone that we could potentially, you have to leave runners. But if your entry is here on the breakout, you have to hold all this drawdown for your runner to play out. And yes, your runner will pay here. It will pay you, right? That's run 200 pips already. But if you move to break even, that's it. You're going to be stop break even and lose the trade. So you have to treat the runner as a whole different trade. Personally, I would not be, would be a little bit, maybe this option here definitely might have left a runner, but I was not trading at this time. This is a good option to leave a runner where we don't have to endure stuff like this. When we have momentum in the market, when we have clear pushing, this is where we can leave runners because it makes sense, especially if you've had a big candle. I wouldn't be too inclined to leave runners like this because I wouldn't want to hold this drawdown on my second position. Realistically, all you want to do is you want to just adjust stop loss, and you want to be like, okay, fine. Once you get into this position, it's a great spot to leave runner. I will not move stop loss to break even because price can easily retest my entry after creating support here, come back up, retest into the zone, and later on fail. So essentially what I would do is I would just leave my stop losses here, 20 pips, but I've closed half already. So if some random candle comes, right, and stops me out, it will be a break-even position because I closed in around, let's say I closed in 20 pips of profit, which you probably would catch 20 pips in such a big move here. I would have actually closed at this support. So yeah, 26 pips in profit here, and your stop loss would be around 23. So it would definitely end up being a break-even trade if it was to come back, but you would just manage, put an alert, and if price does break back into the zone, you can look to manage the trade and no need to even let it be a break-even. You can go away with a small win. But that's my point, is that when you leave runners, you have to leave runners because there's a high chance this is going to come back to break even at some point. And if it doesn't, then you're all good here. You're leaving a runner to run and targeting the higher time frame zones, and that's what's beautiful about it. But don't be too fast to move to break even when you're trying to leave runners. Allow it to come back. Once it creates resistance at your entry, then there's no point, right? Once you create this type of stuff, let's say you entered here and now we're closing below on these candles here, that's a good spot to move to break even now because there's no reason for this to break structure and go up. Otherwise, you're then probably wrong. Then you have a risk-free trade and can leave the rest. But you do need to give it some breathing room because remember, you're trading higher time frame. You're trading higher time frame because runners are what? Based on higher time frame. So if runners are based on higher time frame, you do need to give it some space, and that's why you have to treat it almost like a whole different position here. And that's why when you choose runners, you have to choose them very specifically. If you know it's a high, the only other time where I'd say you could try leave a runner if you know it's a very high volume time and you just want to try get yourself a little bit of a fun push here. But you might as well just left the whole position at that point, right? If you're expecting to have a little bit more of a push and that's in your plan, then you might as well left the whole position. But in a runner scenario, we can basically say this is a day where I feel I can give myself a higher time frame shot, and you can go ahead and you can close 50% of your trade, so that even if it comes in drawdown, stop you out, you're not going to lose the trade because you've already secured. So you're basically risk-free trade, and you're leaving that rest of that lot size to do business here, right? And that definitely will do business. 180 pips here is no joke in terms of holding a good portion of your position open to be risk-free. It definitely can be worth it, but you don't get that all the time. It has to set up, right? It has to set up on higher time frame, and that's why focus on doing the consistent moves so you're not chasing, and then when you get this, it acts like a bonus. I always treat it like a bonus, and my best months is when I get these bonuses. This can really drastically change your month, add 5, 6, 7% to your month, which is where my biggest months have come, is because I've managed to catch trades like this during those months. And that's really what boosts your months. Your consistency, will be the basic percentage that you normally hit per month, but this is what's going to give you the extra in your month. This is what's really going to give you, as I call it, the bonus, right? And it's a great feeling, but remember, it comes all from a strategy, and there's a means to the madness, and you have to make sure it's the right time. Otherwise, you're just going to miss out on potential gains trying to leave runner on every single trade, because most of them won't run. and will stop you at break even, and you're losing out on potential income, which is really, really important not to lose out on long term. And you'll find that out. So yeah, that's basically my video here on runners. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed it and found it valuable here. Keeping it nice, short and sweet here, and it just giving you an insight into, you know, basically how to hold runners. Of course, we can get more into depth about exactly what setup you want to see on the higher time frame, how you want to see the higher time frame setup, but that needs more of an in-depth video. This is basically an overall idea of how to hold runners and what runners really should be. And yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. With that being said, take care, trade sharp, and hopefully catch you guys very, very soon. Peace.